are now tuned in to the Social Intelligent Podcast. And now here's your host, the lovely Deja.
Okay, thank you so much for listening to the Social Intelligent Podcast. I'm Deja, and let me just tell you how excited I am right now. I have a good friend of mine, Ebbie, with us. Let me tell you about this girl just really quick. I met her at CRC. Was it CRC?
Yeah.
Yes, it was CRC. It had to be 2009, 2010.
Something like that.
Something like that, and we were taking some sign language classes together. I think we took 2 out of the 4 together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time, it's interesting, at the time we were in the class, we weren't really talking a lot, but later we became friends after it was all over with.
Yeah.
Very interesting, and we've been friends ever since. She's just a good friend of mine. I enjoy her so much, and we found out we had a lot in common. So we were fast friends. So, anyway, the reason I invited Ebony to this podcast is because I wanted to address the subject of interracial, multicultural couples and multicultural families, and just kind of have her maybe share just an insight on her experiences. So how long have you and Buddy been together?
We have been together for 7 years,
Yes.
but we've been married for 3.
Yes, and they have one son. And how old is your son?
He just turned a year old.
Yeah, and they're expecting number 2, and they are the cutest little family you've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Just so sweet. And we actually, myself and the kids, we went to the birthday party last weekend. Her family and friends are just so sweet and welcoming.
And crazy.
I didn't see that part. They were in their best behavior when we were there. But there's just a lot of colors and cultures going on, lots of food going on. I had a great time, obviously, because of not because of the food, but so if we can just talk about maybe how you guys met, maybe, and how things have sort of progressed between the two of you, and if perhaps maybe with the different cultures that you have, do you think maybe we could talk about that and what things you've had to deal with as a family in reference to the different cultures you two have? Or maybe if things are going really great, what you've done sort of as a technique maybe to overcome the issues, because I know there are some out there that even we've experienced
Definitely.
before. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, we met, it was my junior year of high school, I believe. Mm-hmm. He and his cousin, a cousin of his and I were on the wrestling team together in high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he came to one of our meets, a regional tournament that we had going on. And we kind of just talked, just like as friends or whatnot. And then after high school and college, I ended up moving back to the Bay Area. And he had got in touch with me on Facebook or whatever. And asked, I haven't seen you around lately, where have you been? And
he was looking for you.
Yeah, he was kind of searching for me, I guess.
Aww.
And told him I had moved back to the Bay Area, and he was like, oh, that's too bad, I thought we would, get a chance to hang out before you left or whatever. And so I told him, it was around Christmas time, and I told him, well, why don't you just come down here and we'll hang out for Christmas?
Okay.
And he said okay, and because this was a couple months before Christmas when we started talking, and
you were in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I was in the Bay Area. I was living in Richmond, but I'm originally from San Francisco.
Oh, okay. All
but at the time, I was living in Richmond, and he we've been talking and texting and just keeping in touch on a daily basis. Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of a long distance thing going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he came down for Christmas, and I hadn't really hung out with him one-on-one, just me and him. Mm-hmm. It was always girls from my wrestling team and his cousin that were hanging out. A group thing.
Got it.
And we never had any time to be, just one-on-one. So when I got to know him on a more personal level, I realized that he was totally different from any other guy that I had ever dated.
Aww.
It was
in a good way,
in an absolutely positive way.
Oh, that's great. So sweet.
He didn't expect anything out of me. He I was able to just be who I was without having anything like over me.
So let me. Okay, that's great. Can I just interject really quick, because this is something that I'm interested in, because I can sort of relate to that. Would you say this was the first guy of a different ethnicity that you had dated before?
No.
When you say when you say he was different than any other guy, it had nothing to do necessarily with
race.
With race. Okay, no. Very interesting.
It was him. I grew up in the hood, and it had to do with him being a suburban guy with a completely different perspective.
Okay. Very interesting.
He wasn't tainted, if per se.
Sure.
He has a very innocent way of thinking. He doesn't have
unaware of a couple of you were exposed to different situations because you were on the other side of the tracks, as they say. Okay.
And he was completely, and at first I thought, how can he be so naive to certain things? Then I'm like, okay, well, he wasn't raised the same way that I was, and I have to respect that. That was the hardest thing for me to adjust to. He wasn't definitely the first guy I dated outside of my race. My very first boyfriend, I was a freshman in high school, and he was also Hispanic. And and
I'm sorry. And for those, I took that for granted that everybody already knew. Okay, so Miss Ebony or Ebbie, you're a black. How would you like to? A black woman, an African American woman.
I am black. You're black American.
You are a black American, and he is.
He is multicultural. He is Mexican, Spanish, and German, but his father that raised him is Japanese.
Yes.
So he was raised in the Japanese culture.
Okay.
He doesn't speak Spanish. He didn't like Mexican food until he was like a teenager.
So he wasn't connected to his Hispanic origin at
all. His dad, who raised him, my father-in-law, is Japanese, and he didn't.
I saw him at the party too.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah,
he wasn't completely excluded from Hispanic culture because his mom doesn't technically identify as Mexican. Because
how does she identify?
She identifies as American. She doesn't like to be labeled as Mexican.
She's Mexican from.
Her father is Spanish and German. Her mother is French mulatto and native Mexican, like Aztec
or the Mayan or one of those. Got it.
Native Mexican. So she doesn't like being referred to as Mexican, like the more
the Hispanic ones that we are a little more familiar with, from like the ones.
Yeah, she doesn't like to be referred to as one of those. Her birth certificate actually says that she's Caucasian. So
she's self-identifying as
American. That's it.
Okay, and then so with a American, and I'm using quotes, American mother, or self-identifying as one, and then a Japanese stepfather who raised him pretty much since he was very young.
Yep.
That was sort of the only father he's known. So how does he identify himself?
He identifies himself as Mexican.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is he in touch with Mexican relatives?
Yeah. He has he's the last of 4 siblings. His mother and his birth mother are actually siblings. They're sisters.
Oh, okay.
So his birth father, the mother who, the father who,
biological
father and mother, they both identify as Mexican. His biological father is Tarascan Indian and Mexican.
Wow.
And
so he's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He's kind of
but he identifies as Mexican.
Yeah, he identifies as Mexican.
Okay, that was a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, I can relate. Same thing with my husband. We talked about it. His mom is Japanese and German. His dad is Spanish. And he's sort of connected to the white American kind of a thing. And the thing with him was that he never really knew much about any of those. His mom didn't really teach him much about the Japanese culture, and she grew up with a Japanese mother, speaking Japanese, or her mother did, I mean. So I thought that was really interesting. But at the end of the day, he just always just felt more comfortable identifying as, just a white person. Not that there's anything that matter with that. I just found it so interesting. So if we can just go back to that. So you said that you had your first boyfriend was Hispanic.
Yes.
And then have you ever dated a black guy or?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I had a very long relationship with a guy who will leave unnamed.
That's fine. No, girl, please.
And
we don't gotta go back to that. There's no reason to.
There are just certain things that there's a different type of connection between a woman and a man of the same culture, same spirituality, than there is with someone else. I won't necessarily say that it's negative, and I won't say that it's positive.
Absolutely.
But it's something completely different.
I understand what you mean.
I don't miss being with the black man, but the experience is completely different.
It is.
My husband doesn't seem to like understand that. Like, I tried to explain it to him. We're having this conversation today on our way back from dinner.
Okay.
And I told him that, and he was like, well, what are you trying to say? I mean, he got kind of defensive about it, but
they don't understand.
They don't, and I didn't want to get into it because it would have, caused
some other.
It would have caused some. Right.
I know
so
what
I
you
just
mean.
left it there, and
well, can you, for those, see, and I have a feeling there might be people listening who it just went right over their head. I know what you're talking about because I live this every day. See, so it's just, there's just something, we sort of, not that we have a free pass, but it's almost like hearing nails on a chalkboard. I'm like, oh, don't.
And I don't think they know any better.
No, they don't. Especially if they're from a smaller town.
Oh yeah.
Where they don't get a lot of exposure. They just kind of get what the media portrays, and a lot of times it's not positive. So that's something that I would hope that people take the time to get to know someone beyond what the outside appearance is. And it's so cliche, don't judge a book by its cover. But really, people, when you don't know another culture aside from what the media shows you,
that's what you think.
People get cut. They just really lose out on so many valuable details about a person, quite aside from their culture, although that is a part of who they are, and it's very interesting. So let me fast forward. You get married, or as you're dating, have you ever, did people in your husband's family, did they receive you well, or how did that go? Because I know there are families that have an issue with,
his parents that raised him, his dad was a police officer for 30 years, so he's seen the worst in the African American community. His mom, she grew up in the projects with a lot of black people. She's from the barrio, as they call it.
What is that?
La Barrio. It's the ghetto. Like, she grew up in the ghetto, in the projects.
Yeah.
And so, she has a different perspective, but his
Poverty
dad,
okay.
His dad told him, his grandmother told his dad, and his dad told him, don't bring home a white woman, don't bring home a Korean woman, don't bring home a black woman.
His dad, his biological dad, or the Japanese, his stepdad?
His dad that raised him.
Oh, wow.
And
really,
it's just something that was passed on. But then when his parents got to know me, that didn't even matter.
How soon? Was there like a wall up? Did you sense any tension, or was it like...
The first time I met his mother was actually the time he came down to visit me in Richmond.
When you were dating?
When we were dating. And
had he told his mom, I'm dating a black girl, I'm seeing a black girl,
did.
I like her?
He did.
Really?
And she said, because he had dated black women before.
Oh, that was something I forgot to ask. So you have dated, and he's dated.
And
okay.
I was definitely not, his mom says that he's always loved the chocolate or whatever. Since he was a little, she said, ever since he was a little boy, she would notice that he would just stare
sort of gravitate
toward black women.
Oh, wow.
And she didn't really give me any vibes or anything that, put me off or anything like that. She just told me to look out for her son because his dad didn't have a problem with it. And then the first time I met his dad, I was completely in awe that he was Asian because he didn't tell me that.
He never told you that.
He did not tell me that.
Okay.
I go to that, the first time I visited him, it was in the summertime after that Christmas. And I go in his house and his
6
dad... 6
months later, and he still hadn't mentioned it.
He did not mention it.
Okay.
I guess he just didn't think to go... Oh, by the way,
yes.
I'm sitting there in a room, and his mom had asked me to help her fold some laundry, and I'm folding, and I hear the door slam, and he goes, "Oh, that must be my dad." And I go, "Okay." So he's walking down the hallway.
What were you expecting? Another,
just a Mexican guy, a white guy, or something.
Yeah.
I was just like, "What?" Because he never told me that he was adopted or what.
What did he say?
he goes, this babe, this is my dad, Ken, this is my girlfriend, Ebbie. Nice to meet you, sir.
What was he looking like? Because had he
he knew that I was black.
So, but you didn't know that
I didn't know that he was Japanese.
So what happened?
We shook hands.
Yeah.
He took a shower, and we went out to dinner.
Did he ever explain himself why he didn't tell you, or?
He said, when I asked him after like years later.
Oh, later when you talked about it.
He just said, I didn't think it mattered.
Well,
which it didn't.
It doesn't. You know something?
But it just took me by surprise.
Sure. And you know, the whole I didn't think it mattered thing it's very interesting because, you know, when Frank and I were dating, and you know, and we were doing the long distance thing as well, a little bit further apart. We were in different states. He was in Nevada, and I was here in California. But I remember, you know, when I was supposed to be meeting his mom, I remember saying, "Did you tell her I was black?" That was the first thing out of my mouth, and I don't even think I rehearsed. It kind of just
came out.
Yeah. And he just was like, "Well, no," and I was like, "Well, you gonna tell her?" Here we are on the way to her job. We were going to meet her for lunch that day, and we were. I think she was gonna be getting off work. We were just gonna have lunch at her job, and she's, you know, expecting us. But you know, of course. Well, you gonna text her or call her? I mean, I didn't want to walk into the place
and completely surprise her.
Exactly. And to this day, he never really fully gave me his rationale as to why he didn't tell his mom. But now that in retrospect, I think he probably felt the same way. I didn't think it mattered, kind of a thing. Why go out of your way to explain a situation you really don't feel needs explanation? What is that saying? What's understood doesn't need to be explained, or something like that. Mm-hmm. You know, perhaps that's what he felt, how he felt, and I just was like, all right.
But see, my husband was the opposite. Mm-hmm. He had to tell his parents before they met me. Because
don't bring home this, don't bring home. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And and to this day, my mother-in-law said when she seen a picture of me, because he had a picture of me, mm-hmm. she said she didn't feel any type of negative energy from me. So when she seen me, it didn't matter. And then there was an issue with my family, and then I ended up having to come back to Sacramento. Uh-huh. And if I had to come back, I would have been homeless.
Oh, wow.
And we had...
When was this? I didn't know you then. Did I?
No.
Okay, yeah.
And this was actually the year before I met you.
Okay. Oh, my goodness.
So we had been dating for a while.
Yeah.
And he told his dad... you know, my girlfriend's family is treating her really badly, and she knows she has to come back to Sacramento, but she doesn't know what she's gonna do when she gets here. And he wasn't.
You needed to get out of that situation.
Yeah, and he didn't say, "Dad, can she come live with us?" or "Dad, you know, can we help her out?" His dad said, "Go get her right now." It was like 11:30 at night.
Wow. And you were still in the Bay Area?
Yeah, okay. I was in Richmond.
Wow.
He went to go put gas in the car, took his friend, came and got me that night. Him, his mom, and his friend packed all my stuff up and took me with them.
And you haven't been back?
Haven't been back since.
Wow. And the rest is history.
Yep.
Well, I would like to think that you gave them a different, you know, picture of you in a good way.
Yeah.
Because, you know, for whatever reason, and I respect their family and I respect their opinion, because that was just kind of where they were. Mm-hmm. Don't bring this girl home, don't bring that girl home. But look what you brought down, the barriers.
Oh, yeah.
And you gave them a different idea of, you know, what we can offer.
Yeah.
You know, and who we are, aside from the negative.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're...
what a story.
They have changed so much in their opinion about me. I don't want to say about black people in general, because there's bad people in all races. Yeah. And my father-in-law being a cop for 30 years, he's seen the worst in everybody.
Absolutely.
And he worked mainly in the urban community where there were a lot of blacks who were doing things they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
But there was this one incident where we had drove to Reno for my husband's little cousin's birthday party, and he is mixed. He is half Mexican, half black.
Okay.
And my husband's aunt is married to someone who is not his father, and he is Mexican as well.
So he's been raised by...
he's been raised by 2 Mexican parents, but he's half black.
Right, okay.
So...
And how old is he?
He just turned 7 in...
Oh, he's a little kid.
In April, yeah.
Okay.
But this was about 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, he was just a little kid.
He was little. He was about 4 years old when it happened. And the husband's brother said to his wife, and I heard him... See, I don't speak Spanish, but I can read... write and understand.
So you can understand a lot of
yes,
but you just I just
can't speak Spanish.
Okay.
So I heard the uncle of my nephew,
the brother of the stepdad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard him say in Spanish to his wife, "Get our son away from that little nigger. I don't want him playing with that little cockroach."
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and my father-in-law
at his birthday party.
Yeah. My father-in-law has been married to my mother-in-law for 37 years. Okay?
Wow.
He speaks more Spanish than Japanese.
Okay.
He understands everything in Spanish. He just went over there and punched the man in the face.
Okay, wait. Please explain it very quickly here.
Yeah.
All he heard was whatever, and he just was like, okay, okay.
It just.
So what happened? Was it an all-out brawl up in there?
Well, the man was stunned. He was like, I mean, he sees a Japanese guy just coming up to him and punching him in the face. After he said something very disrespectful in Spanish, he was like, what the heck, you know?
Oh my god.
And he told him, don't you ever disrespect my family. If you have a problem with my nephew and my sister-in-law, with him being half black, I'll take them home with me right now. Right. Let me know.
So he's very territorial over the kids. And that's great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because all of my nieces and nephews are half black.
Okay.
Or they have some type of mixture.
Right.
Not all of them, but I want to say at least 75% of them are mixed.
Wow.
So when it comes to the kids, he doesn't like, play around. He's very protective of my son. And he has heard people say things about me, and he's stopped it. And
so it's to him directly, or he heard gossip, or
he'll hear it and he'll stop it right
at family gatherings.
Doesn't matter where it's at, the store, family gatherings.
Let's pause right here. Are you the only, when you're with your husband's side of the family, are you the only black person?
Yes.
Okay, same with me. So, but we're not. Unfortunately, with the distance and everything between us, we don't see them as often as we would like to, and that's something we're working on as the kids are growing up. I want them to see their grandparents and their, my husband's sister, her children. But when we do go make the trek over the mountain, I usually am the only, and not in that region. There aren't very many, especially where his parents live. And unfortunately, I still kind of feel like people are looking at me, or making, look, they're whispering.
Oh yeah.
And for a while, I was uncomfortable with the whole thing. Even when we were dating still, and even after we got married, a lot of things just didn't change in that area. And I had to check myself, like, something so overly cautious about everybody isn't talking about you. My husband had to tell me, will you just stop? Like, I understand. Put that aside, and it took some time, and I'm still working on it even, but so with you being the only black person, have you dealt with any family members aside from that incident? And that wasn't even towards you directly. So how are things going? Are things getting better, or
it depends on which side of the family we're with. If we are with my mother-in-law's family, which is my husband's mother that raised him, like the grandfather and his wife, things like that, my husband's grandfather, all of his grandchildren, most of his grandchildren are mixed. Okay. So he does not, just like my father-in-law, doesn't like the idea of his grandchildren being taunted because of their race. Yeah. If we are with my husband's biological father's side, everybody has something to say about my hair, about my son's
even
color.
Now?
Yeah. We just went to a birthday party the first week of June, and I was sitting. It was my sister-in-law's, my husband's nephew's birthday party. The first time some of his aunts and uncles had seen my son. Okay, I haven't seen him before, and they don't know that I understand Spanish. So, and me being extremely hormonal, I will instantly start. Yeah. So, his aunt said in Spanish, oh my God, he's so beautiful to be black. And it took me aback for a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
And his cousin, you know, she knows that I understand Spanish.
Ooh,
the cousin knows, so she didn't want to be like, oh, shh, you know, hush me.
Sure.
You know, hush the aunt or whatever, but she changed the subject really fast. She was like, oh, he looks just like his mom.
In Spanish?
And you know, because she knows that I understand what's going on. Put my son in a stroller, and I walked off to the tree and just cried.
Okay.
Just cried. Gosh. And my husband seen me.
Did he hear?
No, he was playing basketball with his nephews and stuff.
Yeah.
And
he's so good. As a side note, oh my gosh, he was just. We'll talk about that later. That was so funny. He's great with the kids.
He is.
He's great.
He was over there playing basketball, and he didn't know what happened, and he seen me over there in the distance, and he walked over to me. He was like, come on, babe, we're going to cut the cake and sing happy birthday and stuff, and I'm wiping my eyes, you know, trying to get it together, and he was like, what? Why are you crying? And he was like, what's going on? And I was like, your aunt doesn't know that, I can understand Spanish or whatever. And he was like, what did she say? And I told him, and he goes, nope, get his diaper back, get in the car, let's go.
Oh, he was ready to go home.
He was mad. He was so infuriated.
Sure.
So then after we went home, I guess he went to his he had mentioned it to his mom or something, and I ended up, telling my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And she said,
are you able to confide in her a lot?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
I'm closer to my mother-in-law than I am my own mother.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you have someone.
Yeah.
We all need someone.
Her, and she goes, you know what? She goes, he is beautiful, and it doesn't matter what color it is, what color his skin is. It's the fact that they seen his color before they recognize that they are blood to him. And she said, that is so sad that you had to even experience that.
Sure.
And for her to say that, going from not liking black people or experiencing the worst of black people, hearing stories from her husband about black people, to her saying that, because she'll die for my son. Sure. She don't play about my son.
I saw her holding him a lot, and she's got like a lighter, it's like almost a blonde color. Was that her?
Yeah, she had highlights in her hair.
Yeah, I recognize her.
Yeah.
Your husband favors her.
Yeah, everybody says that.
Yeah. I was surprised when you told me that was...
Yeah, the one with the really blonde hair, that's his mom. Okay. That's his birth mother.
Okay, there were a lot of people. It was a good size crowd.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then
I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's not the worst of it. I'm sure.
It's not.
Yeah, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
And you're pregnant. You don't need anything
extra
like
stress
that right
or anything.
now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But his biological father, when me and him first started dating, he had a lot to say about me being black.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I heard him talking to my husband and his brother, his older brother, and saying, there's only one thing that a black woman's really good for. Sex.
Why?
I don't know.
I never heard that one.
Don't know.
I'm so sorry about that. That would have just... Oh, jeez.
Yeah. He doesn't like confrontation. Mm-hmm. And he's the type of man that hides behind his wife. And
he'll put her up for the dirty work?
Yes.
And he'll just... Really?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
But he passed away 2 years ago.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember.
And I remember my mother-in-law telling me God took him away before my son was born so that my husband didn't have to suffer. Because she knew that my husband would end up getting hurt by his father saying something about his son.
Oh my gosh. Is it a religion of any sort, or?
My in-laws are non-denominational Christian.
Okay.
And his biological mother is Pentecostal.
Oh, okay. Okay. And were you Pentecostal or apostolic when you?
Yes.
So you have a background, and are you still Pentecostal now, or?
Kojic. I dibble dabble.
Yeah. It's a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But his biological father grew up in Mexico, so given Catholic. But he had a lot to say about it, and even his sister, who I was very surprised by. I remember when me and my husband first got together, she shunned my mother-in-law for letting me and my husband.
You guys.
Yeah, for basically
something interesting that in one of the classes I took, it was called Marriage and Family. It was a sociology class, and we had like a discussion where people were kind of chiming in about, different, things that are considered taboo in their culture or whatever. And I'm noticing that there's a lot of go hard. Well, I don't want to sound offensive. You know how there's the people who are very, very, they're holding on to the traditions, and there's nothing the matter with that. But there are people that had great grandparents and grandparents that were very, very, opposed to them, we're in our 20s, we're adults. People that had, 4 or 5 generations, behind, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that as time is going on, it's a lot more parents are supporting their kids in what they're choosing to do, and they're getting a lot of flack from other family members kind of immersed in there. You shouldn't let him do that. And it's like, well, you can't stop a grown person from doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
Whether you support them or not, people are going to do what they want to do.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've found that to be very interesting, but there's a lot of those when they're a little older, and they still have a lot of those customs that they hold very, very dear to them, and they're very protective over. Yeah. And I appreciate that, because I have old school parents.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're in their early 50s, but my dad especially, he's very old school. There's things he just don't... No,
there's no
absolutely
bending.
Not.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's, he's so stubborn. It's not that. It's just a personal conviction he has. Mm-hmm. And, something I appreciate that, and I respect that. And I have my own personal convictions too. Perhaps not as extreme, if I can use that, but I noticed that. And so you told me about his side. Tell me what's going on with your side.
I remember when I was in high school, like I told you before, the first boyfriend that I had was Hispanic.
And you dated most of high school, or?
No, we dated freshman year.
Uh-huh.
Not
That's
even
a
the
long
whole
time
year.
in high school.
It was like over the summer.
And
it wasn't even really that he was my boyfriend. We were like best friends, and all we did was play video games and eat nachos.
That sounds like fun.
And we made out like twice.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't even know if that necessarily counts.
Maybe in ninth grade.
In my mind,
You're so
I was
funny.
like in love with him. I thought
like
I was. Yeah.
Puppy love. You were infatuated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I remember my mom saying, "Why a Mexican boy?"
And this is I know you said your grandmother raised you, but was this your grandmother or your mom?
No, my mom. My grandmother, which this is, I would have thought that it would have been my grandmother who would have said this.
Because she's a little older.
Because she was older. Uh-huh. She was born and raised in Mississippi.
Okay.
In the height of the KKK.
Sure.
This is why she took her kids from Mississippi and brought them to California, because
away from the segregation,
to get away from it all.
And all that.
Oh yeah. Yes. So my grandmother, she never said anything once about me dating outside of my race. She never had anything negative to say. She just told me, make sure the man that you end up with loves and respects you for who you are.
Absolutely.
And make sure that, you protect your heart, and, just...
Regardless of what color he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she, when he would come over or come to pick me up or walk me to school or whatever.
This is the Hispanic guy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She would just be like, hey, young man. He came to her funeral, July of 2009.
Uh-huh.
Me and him had stayed friends for a while, even after I was married. And then my husband after a while, he just didn't like the idea of me and him being friends.
I understand that. There's boundaries there. Because you guys are best friends.
We were best friends,
but
for
you
such
never
a long
officially
time.
dated.
Yeah, not really. He was the only friend of mine that showed up to her funeral.
So tell me about. So you said that your mom sort of questioned.
She asked me, well, why a Mexican boy? And I said,
well, why not?
Not even that.
Is that what you said? What did you say?
It wasn't even that. It was just me. My response was, why does it matter?
What did she say?
He's nice to me.
Yeah.
He respects me.
Yeah.
He encourages me.
He lifts you up.
Yeah. I don't understand why it really matters.
That's what we need. Those are all the things we need from our companion.
Yeah. And she said, well, I guess. And then I remember we went to a friend of hers house. At the time she was working out of school, and she was dealing with all different types of children.
Like watching the kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's seen the kids in their most true self when they was in play mode. You know how kids get when they're in play mode.
Oh, I know, all right. Yeah, I sure do.
So she dealt with a lot of different kids, and there was actually a person that she met and became friends with who was part of the administrative staff, and we had went to her house one day, and he had walked me, my boyfriend at the time, friend at the time, whatever you want to call it, had walked me to her house to go meet my mom. And the friend, her, was sitting outside on the porch drinking, lemonade or whatever. And I remember I heard her friend say, "Girl, who is that?" My mom was like, "That's her boyfriend." And she goes, "What?"
Yeah.
And I'm like talking to him, but
and you were a freshman at the time.
Yeah. And so after he had left or whatever, and then she was like, "Bye." And
her friend.
Yeah. And he was like, "Oh, bye." So then when he left, my mom said, "Yeah, that's her boyfriend." And the friend goes, "Oh, he's so handsome." She goes, is he Mexican? Yeah, he's Mexican. And she says, "I don't know why." And my mom says to her, "I don't know why she wants to date a Mexican boy." And this was her response, and excuse my language, she goes, "Well, if these niggas ain't out here doing nothing for her, let her get with the Mexican if she wants to."
Well, and this is your mom's friend from work.
Yeah.
Okay. And was she... Is she?
And after that, she had nothing else to say about it.
I read something recently, and it said, well, I'll tell you I'm just going to say it. A good white man is much better than a sorry black one.
I'm telling you.
I read that it was, those memes, and it had like a side, how they have the two-sided, there was like and I'm not saying, because I have black sons. They are black. They're mixed, but they are black. And I have 2 black brothers. My father is black. There's black men. I have a black brother-in-law. There's black men in my family. I'm not saying that every black man is sorry. I'm just saying, the stereotype. Yeah. There's a stereotype. They're saying, in the picture was of a guy with, I'm going to try to find it so I can show you one of these days. He had, the sagging pants and, the gangster kind of look, and then the white guy had like a business suit and a briefcase, and it said, ladies, a good black man is much better than a sorry black, or a good white man is better than a sorry black one. And I thought, wow. Now I can take that 2 ways. I can be like I just said, well, what you mean? There's plenty of good black men out there. Or I could be like, well, don't exclude, other ethnicities. Waiting for. And it's interesting because I didn't tell you this on the air, but I told you before. I've never is the very first man I've ever dated that is not the same as me. I had never even honestly considered it. I was never, not that I thought about, oh no, I'm exclusive, this and that. It just never crossed my mind. Yeah. And honestly, I never thought. I didn't even know that there was a possibility that there would anyone would ever pursue me of a different. And did he pursue me? I told you. Did he pursue me? Oh yes, he did. But before that, I never thought about even the possibility. And it's funny. My mom said, speaking of moms, this was not long after we got engaged, and I was telling my mom about it, and she says, I always knew you weren't going to marry a black man. I said, why? She said, I don't know. She
knows you better than you know yourself.
Your children. She said, I just knew. She said, I just knew there was something about you that, I kind of just could tell. And I just was like, okay. And to this day, I don't know if I really know what that means, but okay. Okay, Mom. Yeah.
But my mom wasn't really necessarily the one who had the most to say about it. My sister, my middle sister, was actually the one who had something to say about it.
Is she older or younger than you?
She's older than me.
Is she also married? Or
no, she's not married.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my thing is that if you're not married and you don't have children, or if you're not in a relationship,
a long-term
serious committed relationship, you should have nothing to say about my long-term marriage. I'm just saying, you shouldn't have anything to say about it, because at the time, the guy that I dated in my freshman year of high school, she knew about him, and she was like, "What? You better keep it in the race." And I was like, "Whoa,
this is a good friend of yours?"
My sister said
that.
Oh,
your sister. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, wow.
And I was like, you gotta pump your brakes.
Yeah. Hold on. Are we talking about your husband now? Or
no.
When you were just dating?
When I was just dating
Okay.
the first Hispanic guy that I was dating.
Yeah.
And then when I got with my husband, she said, "You're really serious about not being with the black man." And I said, "Has nothing to do with him being black or not." And this is from my personal experience.
What?
Okay? All the black men in my family, excluding my father, they are no good. My brother, my uncles, cousins, none of them. They're all just womanizing, and I hate and I don't want to put all black men in the same box because there are some good ones out there.
Absolutely, lots of them. But
Subconsciously, I think me being around them taught me that it was okay for me to accept any black man and the bull crap that he brought along with him.
Because that's all you had.
Because all the black
to.
men that I dated were like resemblances of the men in my family.
Wow.
And so one time I said, you know what? Talk to myself. Go outside of what you normally would go for. Next thing I know, I'm in a serious long-term relationship. Boom, married. Boom, pregnant. Boom, house.
Now you have a beautiful family.
Yeah.
And you have a child coming. You're very happy.
Yeah.
Love it's all the ambience. It's the whole ensemble. And love looks so good on you.
Yeah.
It does. You see it. It's just, you can just see it. Your family is just very beautiful, and it's just the love. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It does not matter. Wow.
Yeah.
So, have you, now that you have a child involved, have you noticed any comments? Have you? Because I got a couple that I've heard.
Oh man,
that's a whole different situation.
My family, they always have something to say about my son, and not even my mom. It's like her siblings.
Negative things.
I feel that they're negative.
But do you think they honestly don't mean any harm?
I don't
unconsciously.
I think they are saying it unconsciously because there's a point when my son was born. He was very fair, very very fair. He was very light skinned. There was I had went to the NICU to go breastfeed him, and one of the other mothers was sitting there. She was nursing her child, and I go and I'm looking for his name tags. They had switched the beds, the little beds around or whatever. And I found his name. And oh, there he is. And I pick him up, and she's looking at me. And
she thought you got the wrong baby.
She thought I must have picked up the wrong baby. My father-in-law actually picked up the wrong baby. Yes. So I'm guessing.
Hold on a second.
Yeah,
was that the same? Was that the same
day?
I'm starting to laugh.
But funny now. He actually picked up the wrong.
He said, "That ain't my baby."
My husband said, he goes, "Wait a minute," because the nurse, she goes, "Oh, what's the child's last name?" And my husband goes, "Esquivel," and they looked at the E and didn't recognize the rest of the name, and she picked up like Escovedo or something.
It was similar.
Not really.
Oh,
I think it was just the first couple letters, and she handed my father-in-law the baby. And my husband's like, "Wait a minute, my son just had an IV line. He didn't have like a nasal tube or anything like this." And he goes, "This is not my baby.
This isn't him."
And my mother-in-law is telling him, she didn't make a mistake. She knows what she's doing.
Oh, she didn't want to offend her.
You're taking pictures and holding the baby.
Do you still have those pictures?
No. My mother-in-law told my husband, "You should have kept them to show Ebbie." People mad. I never knew. They didn't tell me.
Later they told you.
Yes, they told me like after I was released from the hospital.
That is so funny.
And I was like, "Oh my god."
That was the same day though.
Yeah. And so my father-in-law was like, "Ma'am, I think we have the wrong child," after they done took 500 pictures. And she goes,
that is so funny.
She checks my husband's wristband. She goes, "Oh." And
that is so funny.
Yeah,
that's a story to tell.
Right. I can't wait to tell him that when he's older.
Oh my gosh.
So then
did he even look? Well, they look all the same kind of when they're babies.
My
when
son
they're newborns.
had a very distinctive look to him. And I maybe it's just because I'm the mother and I know.
We know our babies.
Yeah. And
watch when you start having more than one, when they're very, very new. Like, see those pictures over there? Those are all just like newborn pictures, and it's like I know exactly which one that is. Oh, that's my daughter. That's my. You just know which one.
Yeah.
You just know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just kind of because my son, I mean, he had my nose, but he was very light. He had a head full of hair. He does have your nose. Yeah, and he just, I mean,
but beautiful.
Yeah. So later that day, they had brought me. You know, it was actually the next day after I gave birth that this happened. Yeah. So I had. You know, they loaded me up on, you know, painkillers or whatever because I had a cesarean section.
Yeah.
And so I went down and I'm looking and I'm like, okay, where is he at? And I'm like, okay, here he is. And I pick him up and the lady's just looking at me. Yeah, she's just looking at me, small or whatever. And so she comes over and she says, do you need help? So once she's seen me latch him on, she goes, oh, okay, you know, kind of like, all right, well, this must be her baby or whatever. But it was just so funny.
You could tell that she might have been thinking something else.
Yeah, but to this day, the same thing happens. I'll go to the store and you know, oh, he's so adorable. Is that your nephew? No, this is my son. But when he's with his dad, oh, he looks just like you. I'm like, really?
You mean when you're out as a family?
No, when it's just him and my husband.
When he takes the baby places.
He always says, people are always telling him, oh, he looks just like you. But when it's just me and him, just me and the baby, like people just think I'm babysitting or I'm a nanny.
There's this lady we met. She's actually from Holland. She's Dutch. Her husband is black. He met her when he was in the Air Force. Good friends of ours. And she's told us, they have 2 sons, they're our age, they're in their 20s. She told us that she had been called the stepmom, the babysitter. People thought she was doing foster care, everything you can imagine, nanny. And she just was like, oh my gosh, let me tell you that I've got that even at the party. Remember your friend, bless her heart, I didn't even get offended because I hear it all the time.
Oh yeah,
whose kids are these?
Like, these are her kids.
My daughter's on my hip, my other kids are screaming, they're ready to take a nap. We were on our way out, we had a great time. We were leaving, and her friend, she was really cool. I loved all her ink. She had like all her tattoos.
We're still friends, yeah.
I liked her, but she's like, so whose kids are these? She thought I just brought her to the party. You know, I could have just went with that. Oh, I'm just babysitting today. No. It happens though.
Yeah,
it does.
And it's just like, and then when we go out as a family, they're like, oh, you know, he looks just like. He's like a mixture between both of you guys, and
okay,
because I guess they see my son's hair. Because he has the more curly texture,
like a coil,
like a you know curly, coiled kind of hair.
What do you plan on your son when it comes to just him self-identifying him, you know, and just kind of maneuvering through the world? Because have you noticed? And Frank and I have talked about this. We here in America, not sure about other countries, but we're so obsessed with, well, what are you? What are you? You know what I mean? There's that question that, and people have mistaken my husband, for example, for being Hispanic. Maybe because he's, you know, he has like, when he lets his hair kind of grow out and he's, you know, is he Hispanic? And I'm like, no, not that I know of. He's a whole lot of stuff, but he's never told me he's Hispanic, you know. And I don't really hold that against anyone because we're just curious people by nature.
Yeah.
But what do you plan on telling little Mr. Angelo, you know?
I'm glad that you asked that question. My husband's grandfather has a genealogy book of his parents, his grandparents, his great-grandparents. And my side, we never really kept up with any of that. And my uncle actually got a genealogy test, and we kind of traced our
Is that when you get your blood done and it'll see what? Okay, I've read about that before.
And
that's interesting.
And my uncle's would be completely different from mine, but it kind of puts, you know, where the genes kind of lead to.
Yeah.
So I think there's Ghanaian and like.
From Guyana or from Ghana?
Yeah, from Ghana and some other stuff. But I'll try to, you know, give him as much history as I possibly can. And if he wants to get his own blood genealogy test done, then I'm more than willing to take him to do that. But I don't really feel the need, and maybe I agree with my mother-in-law on this. I will tell him, you are American. That's what you are. Because when people from other countries, they don't ask you what race you are. They ask you what's your nationality. What nation are you from?
Yes.
You're American.
Yes.
They don't identify us as black. They go, oh, you're American. or you
when
know,
you mean when you're visiting other countries?
Yeah.
Or when you talk to people from other countries?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, because
very interesting.
I've never heard, like, I have a friend of mine. She went to Paris and for the summer.
Beautiful.
And she's her father is like a Filipino, and her mother is Mexican or something. She said when she went to Paris, she had a lot of. She said she went to like a restaurant or something, and she asked for ice in her water, and they said, "Oh, you must be American," because I guess they don't put ice in their water. Yeah. But she said they always automatically went, "Are you American?" They didn't ask her if she was Filipino or if she was Mexican, or they asked if you are American. So when my son comes to that time, when it comes to that time, and I need to explain to my son, I will tell him you are American. If you want to know more about your culture, you are raised in Black Hispanic culture, because being Black is a culture. There's a documentary called Africans in Latin America, or Blacks in Latin America, the Black grandmother in the closet. It talks about how...
Is this on Netflix, or did you see this on YouTube?
I think it is on Netflix.
Okay. I like those documentaries.
And it talks about how Mexico was one of the very first places, way before, like hundreds of years before America. They had Black slaves way before then. They were the first to free Black slaves, and they had a Black president over 200 years ago.
They never taught us that.
No, they didn't.
I don't remember learning about that.
Yeah, they had a Black president about 150, 200 years ago. He was half Black and half Mexican. So, I mean, I want to be able to teach my son about all parts of
history.
his... Yeah, he has a very rich history, you know, with him being his... Because my husband speaks Japanese to him. You know, I signed to him.
Yes.
And, you know, my mother-in-law speaks Spanish to him.
So he's tried some trilingual going on. And then English, of course.
Yeah, and then English.
So he's going to have a step inside a lot of different doors.
Yeah.
Not necessarily economically, just culturally.
Yeah.
Being able to... And I'll say this one thing really quick. I'm, of course, one of 6 children. There's 4 girls and 2 boys. 3 of us are married. Us 3 older girls. You know that my husband is, culturally identifying just as a white male, but he's of, Japanese, German, and Spanish. My older sister's husband is Mexican, and he speaks Spanish. And then my younger sister, her husband is Black. And we were talking about this, for example, we're at my house. You walk into my house, you almost don't know that a man of another ethnicity lives in this house. You almost don't. Like, if you look at some pictures, you would. But like, how do I say it? Like, for example, at my sister's house. Well, yes. Like what I mean is, like, at my sister's house, her husband is Mexican. Like, they have the Spanish channels on. She's in Nicaragua right now on a mission. She's pretty good. I'd say more than 50% conversational, and like you, she understands a lot of it. So my nephew, he just turned a year in April. He speaks more Spanish than English. He's still learning, but the refrigerator is full of... I love it. I love going to their house because it's like, oh, can I have some of that? If you're not used to eating that, you love it. Yeah. And it's like, you almost don't even... It's like, okay. And that culture has seemed to come to the forefront. Whereas in my house, it's almost... you walk up in here, you see a lot...
You couldn't tell if there was a Black person living here either.
Well, I guess you can. You kind of can't. I used to, when we were still dating, and I kind of felt bad. Actually, no, we weren't dating because we weren't living together yet. When we got married, my mom had given me... She likes to kind of get stuff... She likes to decorate. Mm-hmm. So when she gets new stuff, she gets rid of a lot of old stuff. And it's not even really old. She likes to just change the... So anyway, she'll have... come over, pick up some stuff. I got some new stuff. And I'll come, and she had a lot of Black artwork. A lot of Black, and I had a lot of that when we first got married. Before we had kids, I had a lot of Black art hanging up. And then I kind of felt, for some reason, I kind of felt bad. Like, I don't know why. Even now, I kind of wonder why but I felt like overly, maybe I should get rid of this stuff. It just, like, I kept one of them, which is the Lord's Supper behind you. It's a Black Lord. They have them in all different colors. Yeah. But I remember thinking that was the last thing I kept. But all the rest of the stuff, I passed it to my sister because I just was like, we have a multi thing going on here. Maybe I shouldn't have all this Black art in my... I don't know.
I understand that.
You know what I mean? I felt bad
because in our living room is all ancient Japanese stuff.
Oh,
everything.
That must be so beautiful.
And our kitchen is Mexican, and our den is all African.
Like the Black figurines.
Figurines.
Yes. I love that stuff.
Like Sahara
Do you have a cabinet you
paintings.
keep them in or something?
No, they're like,
my mom
I
has one of those, like a
um,
curio cabinet, and she collects them.
That's where the Japanese
Yeah.
stuff is at.
I love
I have
those.
African
Little
masks hanging on
dolls.
the walls,
Yeah.
and I have paintings of like cheetahs and lions all in there.
Sub-Saharan type.
Yeah, just
got it. That's beautiful.
all over. Like each room in the house is like a different
Theme.
Theme. So I think my son will understand. Oh, okay.
A lot of exposure.
Yeah.
See, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, wow, you know. And I just, at the time, I kind of felt like, aw.
My husband loves it.
Yeah?
He picks up, we went somewhere and he's seen like a Ghanaian mask and he was like, oh, babe, look at this.
That would go perfect with
Yeah.
you.
You know?
He has good taste.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for...
No problem.
We could really be here all day talking
I know.
about... See, you're such a good friend of mine, and one of the reasons is because you're always just been so transparent. We can just talk and share and... just no judgment. We can just we understand each other.
Yeah.
So my sincere hope is that people can understand a little bit more of what people are experiencing if they hear it from them personally, which is why we decided to do this. I said, well, if we can get someone, you know, in different topics to come and share experiences with what they're dealing with, and people listen, hopefully we can bridge the gap a little bit, because there's some people who are just completely oblivious to, and that's not a bad thing. If you don't know, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But when you know better, you do better. Is that what they say? You know what I'm saying? And so I thought, I knew you would be perfect. I was like, I can ask Ebony, because we have so many things we talk about, and I'm like, oh, if I could just capture that and share that and let people just hear it, and hopefully, wow, that can resonate a little bit, and that will just each one teach one kind of a thing. Yeah. So
and I think it's unspoken in a lot of households, even those who are in interracial relationships. I feel like it's unspoken a lot, and people don't like. I think people think of it as taboo, being able to talk, having to talk about it.
Yeah.
So if one woman, one man can hear it, then they'll get their own conversations going about it, and
why not
be able to open up and share with one person and hashtag share it.
Right. My mom was telling me, and I guess this is gonna be it, but my mom was telling me when she was growing up, and she just turned 50 last year, and she was telling me that there was probably one or two in the whole school, and she's not from a small town. She went to Burbank High School in South Sacramento, and she said there was probably one or two. And at the time, they were teased a lot. Oh, half breed, yellow, high yellow, the terms that they used. But she told me about, and she says, I would imagine that now there's probably at least half of. It's like, it seems like half the schools now. All you see is, and I love that, because I was worried about my kids. One of the first things I thought about when we were getting married and everything, I thought about my kids, and they weren't here yet. They weren't even thought of, but I was thinking about, oh my goodness, now I'm gonna have mixed kids. Oh man, how do you? I call them mixed. I mean, what do you use, interracial kids, or? I don't know. I like to be politically correct, because I don't want to offend people.
I usually don't even refer to him as that.
What do you just say?
My son.
My son, yeah.
This is my son. My son.
People ask me, I have pictures of my kids on my desk, and people say, oh, these are your kids? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like kind of waiting for an explanation. Sometimes I just don't even say anything. Other times I say, yeah, they're mixed. This is my husband right here. I have a picture of the two of us like behind me or something. See, this is my husband. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because some kids are adopted or whatever, and I think people are kind of just wondering, oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, most of my good friends, people that I actually converse with on a regular basis, they know my husband.
Yeah. You've been together a long time.
Yeah. And so I usually don't have to explain.
Yeah.
But the people that I've just met, like the people that I go to school with now or whatever, and now they know him. But at first, I showed them pictures of my husband or my son with my father-in-law, and they're confused. They don't know what's going on, and then
oh geez.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope this isn't the last. There'll be more of different topics and different discussions, and I will. And let me just say this other thing really quick too. And I said that I sound like one more thing. But really, this is the very first. In case when we have more added and people don't listen to them in order, you are the very first one.
I'm the first.
You were the guinea pig of this whole thing, because I didn't even, when I first approached her, I emailed her. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like, can you just. And I didn't even really know, and then I went back and read that later, and I was like, I don't even know what I'm asking. I can't just say. You remember, I was like, and because maybe it was a lot of tentative stuff going on, and I was like, this girl is about to be like, what? And I was like, surprised. She texted me so gracefully the next day. She was like, absolutely, no problem. Thank you so much for thinking of me and giving me a chance. Why not? Kind of, and I just was like, oh, I love you so much. I was so relieved because I was like, oh, Frank, she's going to be like, what is she talking about? She don't even know.
It's exciting for me be able to talk about, my relationship and my family. So
we'll have you will be a frequent. Yeah. Because we're almost the same person in a way, having, a lot of similarities. And so, okay. Well, that wraps up this session with me and my good friend Ebbie. And I'm going to share a picture that she brought, a beautiful picture of right before Christmas. Was this a couple years ago? Well, you wrote
that was last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Right before Christmas, in a very romantic time of the year. Okay. Well, thank you for listening. And until next time, you guys take care.